he was already in my chair. That's how it started. Not a call, not a calendar update, not even a forwarded memo. Just Mike, our flavorless CFO in dad jeans, sitting at my desk with my coffee mug in his hand like it was some kind of corporate hostage. My nameplate was gone, monitors still warm, desk drawer pried open, gutted. The man had the audacity to smirk at me like I was the intruder. "Allison," he said without standing, reassessed some overhead. I stood there in my heels, arms full of printouts from the postmortem I just ran on the Southeast servers. You know, the ones that survived a full 0-day hit because I'd written my own firewall rules, ones no one else knew about. I just saved them from a multi-million-dollar breach, and he was calling me overhead. "I'm not overhead," I said, dead calm. "I'm the bones. Without me, this place folds faster than your weak chin during an audit." His smirk twitched. That was the only tell I got before he motioned to security, 2 rent-a-cops in short sleeves with the nervous eyes of interns who'd rather be gaming in a basement. They flanked me like I was a liability. Here's the thing. They didn't even know what I built. They called it a data vault because that's what I let them call it. But it was more like a breathing nervous system with claws, the backbone of our cloud migration, multi-region sync, and client-end encryption. I had written it with sleepless hands and caffeine-trembling code during nights when the only voices I heard were from Stack Overflow and my therapist's voicemail. And the keys, tucked in a cold wallet offline, because I never trusted them. Not after that exec offsite in Tahoe where I watched the board sell off part of our tech, stacked to a competitor while sipping wine that cost more than my quarterly bonus. They were too arrogant to notice, too stupid to know that firing me didn't just leave them vulnerable, it left them locked out. I let them walk me to the elevator, let them hold the door, let them think they won, until we passed the server room. That's when I stopped walking. Turned, looked Mike right in the face. "Did you reset the TLS certs before you revoked my access?" His mouth opened, closed. "I'll take that as a no," I said. "Good luck explaining to compliance why the logs say your primary architect disappeared mid-cycle with full admin privileges still attached." He paled, actually paled, like the blood decided it didn't want to be associated with him anymore. And I walked out. No screaming, no scene, just the sound of the elevator doors sliding shut behind me, and the quiet terror of a man who just realized he'd fired the only person keeping the lights on. I didn't go home. I went dark, powered down my phone, pulled the battery out of the burner I'd kept taped beneath my car's dashboard. You don't spend 4 years working under execs who smile while gutting pensions without learning how to vanish. I drove 3 counties west, checked into a motel where the carpet smelled like mildew and forgotten dreams, and booted up my private rig. No cloud sync, no OS bloat, just raw Linux, air-gapped, running code like a live wire. And that's when the real notifications started rolling in. Not from the company, from the system. The vault, my vault, wasn't just storage, it was watching. Learning. Every time someone touched something they didn't understand, it pinged me. A junior dev, Tomas, fresh out of boot camp, sweet kid, tried to access the permissions registry. Locked out in under a second. 10 minutes later, someone from legal tried to bypass 2-factor auth using a backup email. The one I deactivated last quarter. Their panic tasted like honey. They thought they could restructure me like I was a broken chair in the break room. But what they failed to realize, what Mike failed to realize, was that I hadn't just built a platform, built a reputation, quietly, in every Slack channel they didn't monitor, on every late-night call with clients who were sick of being sold fairy dust and PowerPoints. I had allies, and one of them sent me a screenshot. It was a company-wide memo. My name had been scrubbed from every repository, every commit history, even the wiki credits, replaced with project engineering by centralized dev teams. Centralized. They didn't remember me sleeping on a beanbag during the Q3 disaster. Like they hadn't watched me crawl under the server rack during a literal flood to reroute power with zip ties and duct tape. They wanted to erase me, so I decided to haunt them. I pushed a single change to the backend logs using a private port they didn't know existed. 1 line of code, just enough to trigger confusion. A low-priority data integrity flag, something subtle. I waited. An hour later, LinkedIn lit up like a brush fire. Mike was tagged in a post by our largest B2B client. They were pausing contract renewal negotiations, something about trust concerns. By midnight, 3 more clients had followed. But that wasn't the part that made me smile. It was the file attachment someone from IT forgot to redact in the client correspondence. An internal risk assessment PDF I'd never seen before. Subject line, single point of failure, Allison Reed. They knew. They just thought they could cut out the heart and make the body run on autopilot. Too bad they forgot one thing about ghosts: we don't need permission to walk back in. The first true crack came 3 days later, quiet, bureaucratic, almost boring. A JIRA ticket. Priority, critical. Title, urgent vault key rotation failing on all environments. Assigned to nobody. I read it on a borrowed tablet in a diner with sticky menus, and a waitress who called me sugar like she knew I hadn't slept. The body of the ticket was poetry. Unable to complete scheduled encryption key rotation. Access denied. Legacy override path returns fatal error. No known documentation found. Previous engineer unreachable. I was the previous engineer, and the override path, buried under 6 layers of logic with a password tied to the punchline of a bad joke only I ever laughed at. 2 hours later, someone tried to patch it manually. I watched the logs choke. You can't brute force elegance. You nurture it. You sleep next to your code like a lover and whisper things to it at 2 a.m. that don't make sense unless your brain is stitched together by caffeine and rage. Meanwhile, little PR puppet was on LinkedIn talking about seamless transitions and elevating our infrastructure talent. Elevating? They couldn't even rotate a key without stepping on their own tie. So I added fuel. I called in a favor. Jay, ex-dev ops, now freelancing under NDA for some Fortune 50 who'd once stolen half our front-end team. He owed me a beer, a kidney, and his career. Gave him one directive: submit a proposal to replace the vault. He laughed. They'd have to be desperate. They will be, I said. They already are. I sent him a list of current vulnerabilities, anonymized, of course. A little breadcrumb trail of all the ways the vault could go wrong if, say, someone decided to shift the primary certificate chain during a high-load data migration. By the time he finished reading, his tone had changed. Jesus, Al, you didn't build a vault. Built leverage? Damn right I did, because here's what they didn't know. The encryption keys were just the start. I'd baked myself into their system in ways they'd never see coming. Monitoring scripts disguised as error handlers. Log interceptors disguised as patch notes. Hell, even their new HR portal. I'd consulted on it under a dummy LLC. The next day, a second internal ticket leaked. This time from the compliance team. Subject, SEC inquiry data access irregularity summary. Multiple clients had flagged anomalies in their data access logs. Timestamps didn't match. IP traces were inconsistent. Someone had tried to reroute internal audit traffic through an unverified proxy. And still, no one had the guts to reach out to me directly. Not even Mike. He was too busy smiling through his teeth on a live stream, telling shareholders that our systems are more secure than ever. I watched it from a laundromat across town, my clothes spinning, my mind sharper than it had been in years. Because the more he spoke, the more it became obvious. They hadn't just underestimated me. They'd handed me the detonator, gift-wrapped in arrogance and blind faith, and I hadn't even pushed the button yet. It was Friday when they finally broke protocol. 6:47 p.m., to be exact. Long after the C-suite cockroaches scuttled off to their Teslas and martini dinners, a name popped up in my Proton Mail inbox. Sarah T., Senior Infrastructure Lead, not someone I knew well, a competent second stringer, smart enough to survive, cautious enough not to ask why the sky was turning orange. Subject line, can we talk off record? I stared at the screen like it was ticking. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, not applause, not revenge. Validation, that the machine knew it couldn't run without the girl who built the engine in the dark. I replied with 3 words, you have 10. We met in a bookstore cafe, the kind with more plants than books and lattes named after Greek deities. She was already there, tapping a chipped cup, eyes darting like she expected a drone strike. Her voice shook less than I thought it would. I didn't vote on the termination, she said. I didn't even know until the morning after. Save it, I said. Not here for absolution. No. She pulled a flash drive from her purse and slid it across the table. They're planning a system-wide migration to a third-party vault by end of quarter. Jay's proposal is on the shortlist. Yours isn't mentioned once. Of course it wasn't. They think they can erase you. But they've made too many shortcuts. They skipped the dependency map, skipped the override triggers, even recompiled one of your scripts without validating the salt. I blinked. Recompiled Evangelist Pi? She nodded. That was suicide. Mike thinks the board will back him if he shows enough progress by the next earnings call, she added. But they're already on edge. One more outage, one more breach, and they'll gut the whole leadership team. That's when I saw it, the real reason she was here. You want to be CTO, I said. Her silence was a confession. And an opportunity. You want to play hero, I said, sipping my coffee. Let's give them a villain. The deal was simple. I would not come back, not as consultant, not as savior. but I'd let her ride the storm to the top if she handed me everything. The migration files, the risk audits, the real internal emails, especially the ones with my name in them, blacked out like a national secret. She hesitated. They'll know it came from me. No, I said. They'll think it came from Mike. Because by Monday morning, going to accidentally forward a document to the wrong address, with his own metadata stamped all over it. And that's exactly what happened. The board received an anonymous email chain containing financial projections tied to fictitious cost-saving headcounts, a buried compliance audit warning of unresolved encryption, risks a deleted draft memo titled, Risk Strategy, if Allison pushes back. That one hit like a gunshot. Within 24 hours, Ike's calendar was wiped. His LinkedIn profile went dark. No goodbye, no farewell donuts, just evaporation. But the fallout? Oh, we were just getting warmed up. Because someone somewhere tried to restore one of my ghosted subsystems. And that, poor bastards, triggered protocol RED 47, an automatic lock, a looped script, and a very loud, very public alert that went straight to our largest client. Unverified backend access attempt detected. Safe lockdown initiated. Please contact system architect. The contact email, mine. Signed, in a flourish of irony, former overhead. Monday morning, 8:03 a.m. My inbox exploded like a cheap lithium battery. 17 flagged messages. 6 from legal, 4 from compliance. 1 from the client, our largest enterprise account, the one that paid for Mike's private golf instructor, and half the exec bonuses last fiscal year. Subject line on theirs was just one word: unacceptable. The body was worse. We were not made aware that your core encryption system was architected by a now terminated, unconsulted party, nor that said system includes autonomous fail-safe triggers tied to unauthorized override attempts. This violates sections 4, 6, and 12 of our SLA. Please advise before noon, or we begin the formal review process. Translation: lawsuit incoming. Knew that would get their attention. But what came next was beautiful. Sarah looped me in via a misdirected Teams invitation. A live call, internal, emergency tier. No one knew I was watching. It was chaos. One exec's kid could be heard screaming in the background. Another guy was unmuted and breathing like a deflated air mattress. And there, at the center of it all, was Angela, our shiny, perfect new interim CTO. The charisma of expired dental floss and the posture of someone who just realized the volcano was already mid-eruption. I thought we had an updated architecture map, she asked, voice brittle. A compliance manager replied, we did, until this morning when it disappeared. We think someone purged the mirrored backup. Angela, from where? Pause. Compliance. We don't know. We can't trace the access signature. It's not in the credential registry. It was never going to be. Designed that shadow port with a nested encryption seed keyed to an image hash of my mother's wedding ring, something no one in that room even knew existed. Then someone on the call dropped the phrase that made my week. Is she doing this? Angela stiffened. We have no evidence. Another voice chimed in, soft, male, probably legal. But if she is, should we be negotiating? I nearly choked on my oatmeal. Negotiate. They wanted to bargain with a ghost. Same ghost they publicly fired, erased, scrubbed, blacklisted. The same ghost who once held their entire AWS deployment in her hands like a wire puzzle. That's when I decided to stop watching. I closed the call, sat back, and activated the final breadcrumb. Not a breach, not a ransom, just a reminder. A timed packet sent to their archived internal newsletter system. An old one, mostly dormant, used only for internal morale boosts and birthday shoutouts. That Monday afternoon, every employee, all 1,482 of them, got a blast email from Vault Core System Digest. Subject line, built by a ghost. Maintained by fools. And the body, a single sentence, encryption fails where ego thrives. No links, no hacks, just that. And the response was instant. Reddit caught wind of it, then Twitter, then Hacker News. Suddenly, we're trending under hashtags like #VaultFail and #overheadmyass. And that's when I got the call. Blocked number, I answered anyway. Allison, said the voice. It was him, the CEO, the one who shook my hand when I signed on, smiled at me like I was family, then nodded silently when HR slid the knife. He sighed, a long, defeated sigh. Then he said, what do you want? I didn't answer. Not yet, because when you've already been erased, only thing sweeter than revenge is silence before the storm. I let him sit in that silence for 6 full seconds. 6 seconds where he probably imagined every nightmare scenario: class action lawsuits, regulatory audits, investor exodus, CNBC panelists calling him incompetent in a suit. Then I said, tell me, Paul, How does it feel to lose control of a system you never understood? He didn't answer that. Couldn't. Instead, we'd like to make this right. Quietly, discreetly, I almost laughed. You want discretion now. After you dumped me like spoiled shrimp and let Mike sanitize my existence out of your company history. Allison, please, we're under pressure. Investors are, stop. I wasn't interested in groveling. I was interested in leverage, and I already had it, so I gave him terms. I don't want my job back. I don't want an apology. I want the following in writing. By noon tomorrow, a signed acknowledgement from the board crediting me as sole architect of Vault Core infrastructure. A severance package retroactively adjusted to executive-level exit terms. And most importantly, I want the company to adopt Jay's external migration proposal. That last one hit him like a brick. That's outsourcing. No, I said. That's survival. It's the only thing that'll convince your clients that you're finally thinking like a real company instead of PowerPoint cult. He stammered. He hedged. I hung up. Because here's the truth, Paul didn't have time. The logs were already leaking. Internally, teams were panicking. Some poor dev even tried to reboot a test node and triggered a full lockout. I hadn't activated every trap, but I'd left just enough breadcrumbs to make the system snarl if the wrong hands touched it. And now, it were all the wrong hands. Sarah messaged me 2 hours later. They're scrambling. They've scheduled a town hall to calm everyone. HR is in full meltdown. You're a legend. I told her to enjoy the fireworks, because I'd just launched the final phase. Remember the flash drive Sarah slid across the table? The one I barely glanced at? I cloned it. Inside was something they hadn't even realized was still on file. An internal spreadsheet titled Asset Reallocation Q4 Planning. The asset? Me. Labeled non-essential. Replaceable post-deploy. Legal risk, low. Tech dependency, to be reduced via silent code merge. They'd planned my deletion like a software patch. So I shared that spreadsheet, anonymously, to every woman in tech forum I'd ever contributed to, every org that fought for equitable treatment in STEM, and one very well-followed journalist who'd once been fired for being too emotional after calling out her VP. By midnight, the story had a hashtag. Hashcode erased by morning, it was front page on Tech Pulse. And by the time the company held their town hall, the CEO wasn't on camera. He'd resigned, effective immediately. Angela, our cardboard cutout CTO, lasted 6 hours longer. Walked out mid-call when someone in the chat dropped a bombshell. A screenshot of her Slack messages mocking overpaid engineers who think they're irreplaceable. It was glorious. But I wasn't done. Because Sarah, she just got promoted to interim CTO, and she sent me a new message. They're begging for stability. Your terms are being reviewed. Full green light on Jay's proposal. One question, though, what exactly is Protocol Z? I smiled, because Protocol Z wasn't real. Not yet, but they didn't know that. And fear, well, that's a system you don't even have to code. The board ratified my terms at 11:42 a.m. sharp. I got the scan in Sarah's handwriting first, her signature next to a line that finally spelled my name right above a corporate seal that used to make me nauseous. But not today. Today, it looked like an artifact in a museum of bad decisions. Full acknowledgement of authorship. Retroactive executive severance. Jay's proposal approved unanimously. Oh, and one more line added in red ink. Any future system changes shall be preceded by direct consultation with the original architect. I was back in the building, but only in shadow. Exactly where I wanted to be. That afternoon, Sarah invited me to watch the emergency client call. I said no. Instead, I sent her a final deployment patch. Something quiet, useful. A fix for the SSL choke they triggered when trying to mirror the vault without permission. It wasn't revenge anymore, it was control. I had rewritten the script, literally and metaphorically. They could run the show, sure, but I'd built the stage. Then came the apology, not Paul, not Angela. They were gone, ghosts in the company Slack graveyard. It was from the new board liaison, a woman I'd never met. Clean blazer, corporate tone. Allison began on behalf of I closed it. Didn't care, because that's not what mattered anymore. What mattered was what happened after. My inbox flooded with messages from women, engineers, sysadmins, architects across every time zone. Some anonymous, some bold, all saying the same thing, thank you. They did this to me too. You showed them what happens when the ghost fights back. Even Jay texted, you lit a bonfire. Want to light another? I told him to hold that thought, because the last loose end hadn't wriggled free yet. And speak of the devil, Mike finally tried to crawl back. I got the email through my dummy inbox. The subject line was so hilariously pathetic I had to read it twice. Hey, can we talk? No apology, no explanation. Just a bullet point offer. Contract consultant double my old salary, no hard feelings clause hard feelings. Buddy, nuked my career and thought you could sweep me into a recycling bin, labeled miscellaneous female engineer. So I crafted my reply carefully. No rage, no curse words, just one sentence. You don't have the clearance for this conversation. Then I attached a screenshot of the original asset reallocation file, his initials all over the metadata, and CC'd it to Sarah. Let her see the rot he left behind. Let her know what she inherited. Let Mike know the vault doesn't forget. That evening, I walked through a local tech meetup under pseudonym, listened to women pitch new startups, watched 20-somethings talk about coding with the kind of fire I thought I'd lost. One of them asked me, "Are you hiring?" I smiled and passed her my card. It said nothing but a logo and one line, Vault 47, built to remember. I never told them where the name came from. Vault 47. Not a marketing gimmick, not a random number. It was the line number of the commit they tried to erase me from. The one where I'd pushed the original heartbeat script that stabilized the entire system during the Q2 panic. The same one Mike deleted without review, labeled non-critical optimization. Line 47 saved them. Line 47 was me, and now it was mine. Vault 47 launched 6 weeks after the fallout. No big announcement. No press tour. Just a Git repo, a white paper, and a whisper campaign through every Woman in Tech Slack channel I could find. A modular, decentralized encryption framework with zero vendor lock-in, and a deliberately hostile interface for any exec trying to streamline us out of relevance. In short, a system they couldn't monetize and we couldn't be erased from. Sarah quietly stepped down 3 months later. Not scandal, not failure, just fatigue. She texted me, "I got them stable. Now go build something better." I told her I already had. Jay came on as infrastructure lead. Tomas, remember him? The baby-faced dev who got locked out trying to fix what Mike broke. He joined as junior architect, first hire. I let him pick his own title. He chose Firewall Whisperer. We even got picked up by a nonprofit org that wanted to fund secure tools for whistleblowers. Because apparently, once you burn the system down, people trust you to build something that doesn't explode. I got offers, sure, money, titles, equity, from the same people who once blacklisted me. One investor called and said, "You've made your point. Now let's get you back on the corporate ladder." I told him I don't climb anymore. I cut the ladder, melted it down, recast it into a vault that remembers every woman they tried to replace. As for the company, they limped on. New leadership, PR spin, security overhaul. Their name still shows up on dark web audits. Not for breaches, but for stupidity. They're a cautionary tale now. At conferences, I see the looks. I hear the murmurs. The ones who say I overreacted, that I should have walked away quietly. But you know what I think? They expected me to ghost. I became haunted history instead. Because overhead isn't the cost of doing business. It's the cost of forgetting who built the damn business in the first place. And now, they never forget me. Because every time Vault 47 boots up, it echoes one simple line through the logs. Initialized by Allison Reed line 47, system integrity, intact.